A long time ago, in a far-off land known as Japan, there once was a mighty company known as Square Enix, who had become best known for producing and distributing an escapist role-playing series known as Final Fantasy. Reaching its peak in mainstream appeal during its 7th installment, the franchise gained an international audience who were extremely dedicated to its story, universes, and characters. It was in the early 2000s that the wise figure known as Tetsuya Nomura rose from the trenches and said to the world, "You know how there's a big crossover between fans of our counterculture role-playing games and those of cutesy Disney animated movies?" And the world responded, "No, there's not." And thus Kingdom Hearts came to be, and it's great, and stupid, but great. They say you never forget your first video game console, and even though I don't consider myself a gamer today, I hold the original PlayStation 2 at such a high regard. It was really the only console I ever got even remotely good at, and because of that, all of my favorite games just happened to be on it. Jak 2, Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, all just incredible examples. But the most unique out of all of these were the original 2 Kingdom Hearts games, which my sister and I played to death when we were younger. They were these incredible adventure games that were a lot of fun to play and had this deep lore that you totally found yourself getting sucked into. I remember finishing the second game and being so excited to see what the third game would have in store. Little did I know that I would be more than twice as old by the time that Kingdom Hearts 3 would come out 14 years later. Let me tell you, as a longtime fan of this franchise who's been waiting on this game forever, I cannot wait to read the description of this game's plot on Wikipedia. Like I said, not really a gamer anymore. Still, I thought it would be fun to go cascading into the pasts of our childhoods, to remember what made this series so strange, yet so captivating. So I'm reading the script and the following sentence is a lie, but I don't feel like changing it. The basic concept of Kingdom Hearts is pretty simple. You're given this key-shaped thing which has 2 main purposes. One is to unlock interdimensional portals to other worlds which you can then use to access other keys and other portals. And the other is to beat the shit out of people. So you're running around with this giant metal baton, just having a free-for-all, bludgeoning people without mercy. And then Donald Duck and Goofy from the Disney cartoons also show up, and they help you beat the shit out of people. How is this not already the greatest game that you've ever heard of?
I wrote a blog post a while ago about why I f***ing hate video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Using a customizable gummy ship, you're able to unlock and travel between alternate worlds, most holding different versions of Disney animated films to explore and take part in. You know when you were young and you'd play pretend your favorite franchises? And usually the stories would play out exactly the same, except you were inexplicably involved? That's basically what these levels are like. You'll be playing through something like Mulan, and the plot is vaguely the same, except at some point your characters get introduced and totally change up the dynamic of how the story unfolds. Oh, also, there's a bunch of evil demons who are attacking all of the worlds, and sometimes that can get in the way of the movies that are playing out. Ultimately, my personal all-time favorite level of any Kingdom Hearts game is Timeless River from the second one. You know how almost every world in the game series has been based around different Disney films that you're taking part in? Timeless River is all about you getting trapped during the events of Steamboat Willie, and I love it. The screen goes black and white, the audio is suddenly mono, and all the characters are reverted to these old retro designs. You get to hang out with all these semi-obscure early Disney characters, it's great. In general, the key appeal of these sequences is both that you get to relive these old stories that you know and love, and also that you get to see them cross over in very creative ways. In the first game, there's this big band of evil villains who are working together to try and stop Sora, so figures like Hook, Maleficent, Oogie Boogie, and the likes are constantly interacting in cutscenes. Sometimes the levels are just copy and paste from a story that already exists, and sometimes they tell entirely new stories with the old characters. It really depends on how the tide turns. Also, minor spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3, but apparently the new game includes a world based on Toy Story, and from what I've read, the game is actually going to be canon to the Toy Story movies. The idea of Woody and Buzz fighting universe-hopping demons with their universe-hopping friends, while all of this is canon to the actual Toy Story films, is just so hilarious to me. So that's the basic gist of these games if you want to understand the appeal as an outsider. But as a fan, that's probably not exactly where I would start to think about them. Because as you play these games, one of the reasons you keep coming back is actually because of the fascinating characters and the deep lore. So let's dip our big toe into this mess and just get a feel for it. Kingdom Hearts 1 starts off on the world of Destiny Islands in a time where all of the various worlds have not been connected. Sometime before the start of the game, a girl named Kairi has washed up on the islands and has been taken in by the local inhabitants. She has become best friends with Sora and Riku, who promise her that they'll find a way off of their world to explore the many others. So, to recap, Kairi is from an alternate Disney dimension that suddenly stopped existing, leading to her suddenly washing up ashore in this world. Headcanon. Kairi is from the Song of the South universe. Sora, build a raft! So their plan is to build a boat and then ride it over the end of the water here. Which is a stupid plan because everyone knows the first thing you have to do is to get over the invisible wall that the programmers put in. Although this plan is evidently pretty childish, the entire point here is to set up the motivations of these characters. Sora, Riku, and Kairi all want off of these islands to explore the other worlds. Sora treats this like a delusional childhood fantasy, and Riku treats it like something that has to be accomplished no matter what. In other words, Riku makes a pact with the devil and gets their home world destroyed. Meanwhile, in the world of the Disney castle, Donald Duck is horrified to discover that their king, Mickey Mouse, has gone missing, venturing out on his own to deal with the issue of all these worlds being destroyed. It would seem that the barriers between worlds are starting to truly open for the first time, and the king leaves it up to Donald and Goofy to find, quote, the key to deal with the situation. My favorite part about these games is that Square Enix decided to make Mickey Mouse this hardcore, loner vigilante who only shows up in the most dire and serious of scenes and comes across as one of the most threatening figures in the entire universe. Like, is there anything in the world more hot topic than Mickey Mouse redesigned by the creators of Final Fantasy VII to be this epic hero in hiding?
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
Throughout the game, you fight a series of baddies known as the Heartless. It's a little more complex than this, but the rundown is that Heartless are born when regular people are infected, and the darkness in their hearts manifest into these creatures. Alright, so this is pretty easy to understand. Everyone grasps this surely. They're just weird, evil, blobby zombie things. Because this is where the stupidity of this franchise goes from 1 to 1,000 and it never goes back down. So apparently when strongly willed people lose their hearts and become heartless, this creates another figure known as a nobody. Imagine a nobody as something like a clone that still exists separately from the original person, but is also a part of them. I feel like a lot of you are lost right now and have no idea what I'm talking about, but we don't really have time to stop and explain this any more than I have. Nobodies appear human, but are easily recognizable due to one simple factor. Their names are anagrams of other names with additional X's added in. For instance, the leader of the organization is named Xemnas. Removing the X and rearranging the letters creates Ansem, who is a mysterious figure in the franchise to begin with. Additionally, if you don't remove the X and rearrange the letters again, it spells man-sex. The existence of Organization 13, which holds 13 total nobodies, is the focus of the plot of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories as well as Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 179 Days. The figure of Roxas is introduced and is ultimately revealed to be Sora's nobody, created when Sora briefly sacrifices himself during the first game by turning himself into a Heartless. When Roxas is born because of these events, he is recruited by the organization but eventually starts to regain some of the memories of Sora. He's eventually captured and taken to an artificial world with his memories wiped, as it is apparently essential that he rejoin Sora so the two can become complete. Are you lost or confused by all of the things I've just said to you? Well, if that's the case, you should know that this is the kiddie side of the pool when it comes to Kingdom Hearts lore. We're not even going to talk about the mid-Atlantic range nonsense that gets opened up by all the other games. So back in the day, it was really common to see people in the Kingdom Hearts community making original characters that were meant to be a part of Organization 13, and I found mine. His name is Zob. That's Zob. The entire joke of his character was that his original name was supposed to be a mystery when there's only one name that it could possibly be. His power is the ability to spray Diet Coke with Mentos, which is very epic XD. You can only assume that he's Organization Member 69. The biggest oddity of these games is that as much as experiencing them is all about getting lost in all this deep exposition and connecting one game to the next as you come to understand the dark complexities of this world, it's also about hanging out with Winnie the Pooh at the 100 Acre Woods and seeing all the misadventures that those guys are getting up to. Oh no, Eeyore lost his tail! What are we gonna do? Sometimes you could spend time with Cloud Strife and fight Sephiroth, and sometimes you hang out with Ariel from The Little Mermaid. and you play rhythm games. You find yourself dealing with deep moral questions surrounding your fighting of the heartless in-game, about if you're accidentally helping the bad guys accomplish their horrible goals by continuing to play the game, and you also get to explore the quirky upside-down world of Wonderland, and kill anything that moves without putting any thought into it. Overall, Kingdom Hearts is this strange little series that is built out of all these components which are brilliant by themselves but seem as if they shouldn't go together. The journey of Sora and his friends, the inclusion of so many characters from the Final Fantasy series, the numerous levels based entirely around classic Disney properties, the deep lore analyzing the complexities of the characters and introducing ridiculous things like the Heartless and the Nobodies, all alongside the fact that this is all canon to the Toy Story universe. Kingdom Hearts is stupid, undeniably so, but it's brilliantly stupid. All these different elements become the perfect storm where you find yourself getting lost in studying it all. Even if the franchise is close to 20 years old, I think part of the reason it resonates with so many people is because it does have all of these different elements. If you like the Final Fantasy games, you're gonna find similar tropes and characters here. If you like Disney movies, you're going to see a story made by people who absolutely love those and want to help you relive them. And if you want to study the deep lore and figure out everything about the universe, you certainly can. But if you just want to relax and have some fun, there's nothing stopping you from just ignoring all the exposition and beating the hell out of anything that gets in the way of your awesome metal key baton. No matter what you get out of the series, the third installment is undeniably proving to be one of the most hyped of the decade. And I cannot wait to see this fascinating mess unfold once again. Even if I won't play it because I'm not good at video games. So this is going to be a little awkward and I'm gonna feel a bit like a shill, but I thought I could end this video by telling you guys about my Patreon. I've been really struggling recently with the fact that I have absolutely no idea when I make a video if it's gonna do well enough to make a profit or not. AdSense is so inconsistent and it's not like I get the same views with every video I post, and I've realized that Patreon is just a much better way to make a living off of YouTube. I frankly would really like making content a lot more if I could just unplug, make whatever content I wanted to without worrying about if the algorithm is going to suggest it to everyone or if it's going to get a lot of views or really anything about how it's going to affect the channel. If I could just post content I like making without worrying about if it's going to affect my livelihood. I mainly use my Patreon to interact with fans. I usually post the scripts that I'm working on there, and occasionally I even post videos sometimes up to like a week before I actually release them on the main channel, because I like getting feedback like that. With that aside, if you liked this video, consider watching this one I made about the Disney parks. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe, because that's how I know which content I should focus on making more of. I legitimately check this, I'm not joking. With that, I've been Quinton Reviews, and that's all you need.